Welcome to Sauk Valley Media's Pigskin Primer for Week 5 of the high school football season. I'm Sports Editor Dan Waisner alongside Assistant Sports Editor Christopher Heimerman, and we're coming to you from Newman High School this week. The game of the week will be the Riverdale Rams at the Newman Comets, of course over at Roscoe Eads Stadium, but we're coming to you from Newman today right before football practice, kind of to change up the background environment for us. You know, it's week 5 already, Chris, and we're halfway through the football season. I'm not exactly sure how we got here this fast, but we're here.
You know, we do it in every season. All of a sudden it was, where did the summer go? After, where did the spring go? As we get older, things start moving a little bit faster, and we found out some things this season pretty quickly. You know, we found out that some teams, a little bit surprising, and some teams have been just as good as advertised. I think on top of that list, you got to look at the Newman Comets. 4-0, coming off a couple of pretty convincing victories after duking it out with Morrison, who we knew would probably be their biggest test this season. And Newman's going to get the Riverdale Rams. You believe that they're going to deliver on Friday night, but anytime that you're in a conference game with an age-old rival, you expect a pretty good game. So hopefully they'll get a good one over at Roscoe.
You know, looking back at last week, Sterling, you were over at Roscoe Eads Stadium again.
That's where I hang out.
Yeah. You know, they had a second tough loss in a row this week to the Rochelle Hubs. You know, I think they're pretty glad to be done with the NIB 12 East portion of their schedule. Now they're heading into conference play.
Yeah, and who wouldn't be happy to be done with the East? I think we found out that that side of the conference is a very, very scary place to hang out. First Canelan, then Rochelle. I'm not going to say that they're going to get a breath of fresh air. Anytime you're going on the road, you're going to get challenged. And LaSalle Peru is a team that's going to spread it out a little bit more and look to throw the football, kind of like Sterling likes to do these days. Sterling's still something of an unproven commodity. In the preseason, we looked at him and we had some questions. First-year head coach, new system, and I think starting now in the Western Division, now they have a chance to kind of forge a little bit of an identity. So that's a game that I'm very eager to see how it plays out on Friday.
You know, across the river, Rock Falls, they're playing probably the most exciting games in the area. 100 points scored last week between Byron and Rock Falls. The Rockets come up short. You know, if their defense can find a way to just get those teams off the field, you know, the Rockets could be very scary in the Big Northern.
Oh, absolutely. I think Brian Weidman, one of our sports reporters, said Friday night, and that's a team that could go 2-7 or 3-6 and could be one of the top scoring teams in the state. Jacob Mamosher can wing the ball. Steven Armaska is just flat out a weapon, and he's one of many. Austin Babcock, Alex Leaf. I mean, even when Austin Donahoe comes in as an extra wide receiver, they have so many guys who can make plays with the football. So once again, as you talked about leading up to a couple weeks ago, that game of the week, if they take care of their jobs at the line of scrimmage, start tackling, start putting offenses in positions they don't want to be in, they're going to pull out some victories. But you know, the Big Northern, they're going to have to bring it every game if they want to pick up a couple more wins.
All right, looking ahead to Friday, like we said, the Comets are playing the Rams. Rams are 0-4. It's a bit deceptive. Three of those games they lost. I think it's by 7 or fewer points. You know, they could very easily be 3-1 at this point. How do you see Friday night playing out?
Oh, you're absolutely right that this is a team that's had a few near misses. Against Kewanee last Friday, they get blown out of the water a little bit. Kewanee gets its first win, so I'm going to see a little bit of a grumpy Riverdale coming in here. Every team knows that if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. And you know, maybe Riverdale isn't going to have a shot at winning this conference, but they're going to relish the opportunity to have a shot at the Newman Comets. But that being said, Newman just keeps plugging bodies in there. Guys keep picking up where some injured players are left off. I'm going to chat with the guys here in a few minutes. I'm going to catch up with Jake Snow, who's a guy who's contributing both out of the backfield and at the safety position. Just too much talent across the field. Newman keeps doing more with less. I see them pulling out this game pretty handily. I see them winning 35-12.
Okay, yeah, I was pretty close. I was like 30-12. You know, Newman tends to get ahead, and they call off the dogs early. Yep. They're not a team that's going to put up 60 points on somebody. Once they get that lead in the second half, they're going to put in some of the backups, get them some PT. You know, the thing with Riverdale, I think they can keep up with Newman for a little while. They have a huge numbers problem. You're talking about 20-some kids. You play a team with the depth of Newman, and that's just going to wear you out pretty quick.
And the future's not bright for them either. They're not going to have a fresh soft game. Yeah. Mike Poposi let me know this afternoon because of the fact that Riverdale doesn't have the numbers. So it's rough now. It doesn't look great down the road, but hopefully they'll give Newman a good test on Friday. You
know, one other game we want to highlight before we send it back to the office. Up in the NUIC Northwest, you have 2 4-0 teams. Eastland Pearl City playing Lena Winslow in Pearl City. you know, these teams have just been thumping almost everybody. EPC they finally kind of faced a tougher foe last week. They beat Galena. It was 21-13. And so that was the first time a team had really pushed back against EPC. And I think what you're going to see is Lee Wynn's probably a step ahead of them. Got a little bit more experience this year. And I see Lee Wynn probably pulling away 35-21, something like that.
I think if EPC can keep it close, I don't think you can rule them out of maybe getting a couple of votes in next week's poll. If they show well against Lena, even in a losing effort, you can glean some confidence from that.
You know, if they beat Lena, you're going to see EPC jump into the poll pretty high. That's a quality opponent. Obviously, EPC's up in 2A, but you know, Lee Wynn's a potential state championship caliber team, and you know, a win there would really solidify the Wildcats as a team to watch come to November.
If you missed Dan's column today, be sure to check it out. He predicted the outcome for all of your teams. Check that out at SaukValley.com. All sorts of game preview coverage coming up in the next couple days, and of course Friday night.
Yep.
Get to do it all over again.
Don't forget to check out the website Saturday morning. There'll be video highlights and interviews from the Newman Riverdale game. And now we'll send it back to the office to our other reporters who will be highlighting some of the other big games in the area.
This is Sauk Valley Media sports reporter Larry Brennan taking a look at the Dixon at Geneseo football game coming up this Friday night at 7:30 at Bob Reed Field in Geneseo. Dixon comes in 0-4. Geneseo brings in a mark of 2-2. It's the Northern Illinois Big 12 West opener for both teams. Dixon opened the season with a tough loss, 21-20 to United Township. The last 3 weeks have been lopsided results going against the Dukes. Those are losses of 49-21 to 10th ranked Rochelle, 42-14 to Yorkville, and last week a loss of 56-6 to Morris, the number 1 team in 5A. Geneseo opened the season with a pair of wins. They routed Dunlap 52-7 in their opener. They beat Chicago Raby 40-20 in week 2, and the last 2 weeks they lost 43-0 to top-ranked Morris, and last week lost a tough one 34-31 to Sycamore, the number 9 team in 5A. Last week Geneseo gave up a lot of big plays. That was the big problem in their loss. 4 touchdowns of 35 yards or more. Dixon will try to capitalize on that and get some big plays of its own. Last year, Geneseo only beat Dixon 24-21. This year, I am going to predict Geneseo will come away with a 38-14 win.
This is Brian Weidman, a reporter for Sauk Valley Media. I'm here to preview the Rock Falls at Winnebago football game Friday night, 7 o'clock in Winnebago. The Rockets put a lot of points on the board this year, 117 points, including 43 last week in a loss to Byron. The problem for the Rockets, they haven't been able to stop teams. They've given up 133 points. It's going to be tough for them to improve on that a whole lot this week. They have a team in Winnebago that's averaging 42 points a game. They scored 34 last week in their only loss of the season. The Rockets, I think they'll improve a little bit on defense this week, but it's still going to be tough to pull out a victory against a very fine Winnebago team. I predict a 35-21 win for the Indians.